well, you have to take the GMAT. And then when did applications open? In January. So I think for me, I put a lot of weight on getting the right recommendations, just because I guess I was fortunate to have been at the bank for so long. There were some key folks, key managers that I regarded as my mentors, and having them see me develop, from being so green right out of school, and then to see me at the age of 27 now applying to business school. I think that's important. You don't want to just get someone with the position that's going to write you this amazing recommendation and use cliches and what have you. You really want someone who's going to really talk about your strong points and to really say this is how you've grown over the course of X amount of time.
I have a pretty unique perspective here because this year I am on the admissions committee, so I've been able to read a lot of applications, and it really did bring back some memories of my own application process. I just remember the long nights, thinking out what kind of story can I tell in my essays. These are the personal statements that are really going to set you apart from everyone else. I just had a feeling that other applicants were going to have this same GPA, same GMAT scores. That wasn't going to be the main driver. It's what I really wanted to put something on paper that this is what Anderson can provide me, but more importantly, here's what I can provide to the incoming class. And it was pretty difficult because unlike this year when we went to a round system, back then it was just you can just start applying once January hit, and you had until I believe it was April or May. I mean, I just remember because I turned it in about a week or two before the deadline, and I was just really freaking out, like, oh my gosh, is there going to be any space left for me? Like, I wasn't sure what was going on, and I think I was pretty lucky. I got I was able to come in for an interview with Dylan, and thankfully I must have impressed them because I got in. So my main recommendation for the application process is just don't worry about the GMAT, don't worry about the grades. Yes, obviously they're important factors in gaining admittance, but at the same time, spend a lot of time on your essays. Make sure that they're well written and really show what it is that you have to offer to the program. We want unique experiences to really flesh out the student body so that we can have really good discussions while in class.
I didn't have any real concerns with finding recommenders. I've had a pretty long career. I had a lot of people that I'd worked for who I knew would have a generally favorable opinion, but would also give a good letter of recommendation. I hire a lot of people, and the worst letters of recommendation are these phony, oh, he walks on water, he's great, and I knew that these were people who'd give a real letter of recommendation that would, as I said, be favorable, but would also be realistic and would be worth reading. The biggest question I think I had was in writing the essays. I knew I had a choice. I wanted to present myself well, I wanted to present something that was unique, but it was almost more of a stylish question. Should the style of it be sort of a professional biography, or should I do something that was a little bit more disclosive of my character without, obviously this is not going to be some weird stream of consciousness writing, but should it be something that had a little more of a personality to it? And I ultimately decided on the latter, and it was because the recommendation in the application material is really tend to be more disclosive. Write an interesting paper that does say something real about you, that doesn't read like a dry little biographical sketch.
Didn't it always feel a little bit cheesy, though? Maybe you guys had a better experience writing essays, but I remember doing like 12 different iterations and just thinking, I sound like a moron. I must sound like the cheesiest person in the whole world.
I agree with you. I mean, it was
it's
definitely
painful.
Yeah. It's not a fun experience, but I mean to kind of piggyback on what John says. It is important to really write an interesting essay. As someone who's read over 100 applications this year, you know, when you start reading the same thing over and over and over again, you know, all the applications start blending together. So if you can write it in such a way that you'll stand out, you know, can kind of show your character and show, you know, the interesting side of you, you know, it'll definitely score you points with, you know, the students reading your application.
I didn't have to do a lot of writing and rewriting, but I was stuck. I had
so
writer's block.
smart and talented.
Oh, thank you. Will you marry me later?
That's the only reason why people come and get their MBA. They're looking for a ring.
But I was just stuck, and I didn't know what to do. And you can read a lot of books that purport to tell you, here's how to get into the great grad school, here's how to do this, here's how to write it. The piece of advice that stuck in my mind was, when you go to write it as not a biography, but a story. And think in your mind, I'm writing the story of my successes to date. And it doesn't have to be arrogant, it doesn't have to be, I leapt from mountaintop to mountaintop of supreme achievement. But pick out what you would regard and what others would regard as successes in your life. And then, how did you get there? How did you grow from them? How will you go on from there? Don't write, I was born of poor but honest middle-class parents in 1957 in Royal Oak, Michigan, and give something dry like that. It doesn't really even have to be chronological. And you've got several questions, so I wouldn't say go nuts, but go creative.
Yeah, self-awareness is good. And I really liked UCLA's questions. I mean, you could look at all the different applications for all the different schools, and you can sort of tell exactly what each school is trying to glean from their questions. But I remember, you know, the FIMBA program being quite specific and a little bit more thoughtful. So it wasn't that painful to write. But yeah, it's never fun to write about yourself. So.